Hey guys, how you doing? This is Jamie Caparoso, your Keto Daddy. So part of the video series, people keep asking me is how do I set up macros? How do I figure out my daily caloric intake? And in my book, I used my app, Keto Check. So for this video, I thought I'd use something else, another online tool, just not to have a completely biased opinion. I know that my BMR works real good, but I also know that recording my food can be kind of clunky on the Keto Check app. So for today's tutorial, we're going to go over using MyFitnessPal, and I'm using the free version just to get you guys started. I may do another video with the pay version, but for now I'll use the free version because what the heck, it's a lot easier that way and save you guys a couple bucks. So I basically went on to myfitnesspal.com and I created a profile, and like everything now, you can just log on with your Facebook and it carries everything over. And the first thing you want to do is go over to settings, click on the settings tab, and then you can go down to update diet and fitness profile. And here they have their own little BMR to calculate your daily caloric intake. So I've already played around with this a little bit. And so I put a starting weight in there, and you can just type it in. I'm going to say 215. And today is October 12th. Getting close to my birthday. For those of you who don't know, I'm born on Halloween baby. So feel free to send gifts and or cash. So today's October 12th, date of birth 10/31/72, male, goal weight, let's say I want to lose 10 pounds, 205, that's pretty lean for me, I'm 5'11". So when it comes down here to how would you describe your normal daily activities? So those of you that follow me know that I work out pretty religiously, at least 5, maybe even 6 days a week. And a lot of that is CrossFit. So, and those of you who are not familiar with CrossFit, that's a super high intense workout that can involve anything from barbell movements to gymnastic movements to a combination of movements, all in the same thing. But I always put myself under sedentary. Other than being in the gym for that hour and 20 minutes or whatever, I pretty much sit. So I have a long commute to the office where I work, and it's a good 45, 50 minutes. I get to work, I sit at a desk pretty much the whole time, getting up just for copies and stretching my legs and getting my hips moving. And then if I'm on the road, I do outside sales. I'm pretty much sitting behind the wheel of my truck. And then come back, then jump back in the car again if I'm leaving the office, and that's another 50-minute drive home or to my CrossFit box. Then I get to the CrossFit box, and luckily I have a good coach. There's good programming. If you're in Michigan, CrossFit Fate is great. Then I kill it there for an hour. I mean, heart pounding out of my chest kind of workout. But then I get right back in the truck, sitting down again. I go home, I make dinner, and then I watch a little TV on the couch, and then into bed. So out of that 24 hours, there's really only 1 hour of the day that I'm up and moving and active. And I find that almost everybody is pretty similar. Again, I work out really hard. And even when I worked out longer than that, when I had my own gym, I pretty much put sedentary because my day job was the same thing, sales. So give you a rule of thumb, unless you're doing construction flat work or a waitress that's just running back and forth in a very busy restaurant, I'd put sedentary, at best lightly active. So that's my 2 cents on these calculators. So I put in 4 to 5 times a week for working out. 4 is pretty safe. How do you want to track expenditure? I go calories, kilojoules if you want. It's just another unit of energy here. Oops, sorry, I messed up my camera. What is your goal? A half a pound a week. That works out to be 2 pounds a month, which once you get through the honeymoon phase of ketosis, where you lose that 5 to 6 pounds right in the beginning with water weight, half a pound a week of actual fat loss is really not that bad as long as you keep moving. At most, I'd put a pound a week. And that's not to say that that's going to come to fruition. It's not going to happen every week. Sometimes that pound a week happens every other week. It's not all that reliable, because remember, we're biology and there's all kinds of biological mechanisms built into us to keep us from starving. So even though we figured out a little bit of a calorie deficit and a little bit of a exercise efficient, so here it is. So yeah, you should lose 2.5 pounds by November 16th. That's pretty reasonable goal, unless you are really, really killing it. Don't expect too much of yourselves, So I always rule of thumb is, how old are you? Well, I'm, 45. Well, it took you 45 years to get yourself in the condition that you are now. What makes you think you can reverse all those habits and all that weight overnight? It just going to take a little bit of effort. So I clicked on the upload, and this is what it gave me. And this is pretty regular or pretty common with what I come up around 2,000 calories a day, calories burned a week, 2.5 calories by November 16th. Get started now. So let's see where they take you next. Okay, so there's some more settings on here that we can play with under the free app that makes it a little more keto friendly. And let's go settings, diary settings is I think what it's under. So I always change it to under nutrients tracked. I'll go fat, carbohydrates, fiber, sugar, protein. And I go with that order is because usually on a nutrition label, that's the order they come in. And once newbies get a little more dialed in, you'll know how to subtract certain fibers, certain sugars. They don't have sugar alcohol on here, unfortunately, but that's something that you'll learn with time. I also changed my meal names to first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. It just seems to make more sense to me as opposed to breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because a lot of us don't eat under that kind of schedule. And then for diary settings, I keep mine to public. People like to friend me and find me and see what I'm doing. And again, I want to tell you, I go through spurts where I actually log and record this stuff. I'm not really diligent about it unless I have a goal in mind, like a competition coming up, or I do want to shed a couple extra pounds, then I'll get back into dialing in my macros. And this is where I'll usually do it at, because the phone app is pretty easy. And then I can export to Excel sheets and see it all at a glance. So let's see what else we got here. Change units. Since I'm in the US, I do everything pounds, feet and inches, miles, calories, cups. All right, there is another setting on here where you can adjust your macros a little bit. And I want to say that was under diet and fitness, but I could be wrong. Might have been goals. Bear with me. I struggle with this thing too. Here we go. Under goals, you can edit your profile, and this is where you would make it a more of a ketogenic macro profile. So here they have the default, but here's my calories. So here I want to make about 5% from carbohydrate, and then it'll tell you that your 100% isn't here. And I want to do, since I work out, I try to get a little more protein. So I'll say 30% protein. And of course, the difference is going to have to come from fat, which is our new energy source. So now you can kind of see in the margin here, 26 grams of carbohydrate, 150 grams of fat, and 156 grams of protein, which kind of falls in line with a lot of the commonalities in thinking. Again, this is in the interest of keeping it easy keto 1, 2, 3. This is a place to start. You don't want to be married to this forever, and it takes time, remember. So sometimes I'll even do 35, and 60 if I'm really training hard. That gives me a little more protein a day. For those of you who are very sedentary and maybe just working out, some yoga and whatnot, not lifting with weights, you could probably bump it down, get more energy from fat. And this will give you right here in your grams of carbohydrate, grams of fat, and grams of protein. Let's save those changes. Save the changes and go back. Home. There we go, 2080. Let's play with the food. And let's build a meal here and show you how this works a little bit. So pretty common for me, add a food. Let's put in, all right, I got generic egg right here. Click. Quantity of, let's say not 8. Let's say 4. Egg. And then let's add checked. So right off the bat, they'll tell you how much fat, how much carbs, and how much sugar right at the top here. Protein, 24 grams. And then down real nice here, they'll tell you how many remaining calories you have for the day, remaining grams of fat, how many remaining grams of carbohydrate, and protein. Fiber and sugar, I think you can dial in a little bit, but I wouldn't pay attention to those for now, especially if you're a newbie. So let's add a little more food here to this. Let's get a couple pieces of bacon in there. Coleman uncured bacon. Add checked. And from this, you can see how it's changed, right? So now we got my total grams of fat and total grams of protein and total grams of carbohydrate. And then you can go down and track to see where you're at for the day. Now, the phone version of this is pretty simple too, and it gives you a nice pie chart. But this is kind of a quick and easy way to get started with dialing in your macros. Again, I would use those ratios that I had in there as a general rule of thumb and a starting place, and stick with it for a while. Don't expect instant gratification because this process takes time. It took you that long to get there. I always say, especially with someone who is maybe trying ketosis for the first time, is I don't mess with anything for 6 weeks. Someone comes in and they're like, hey, I'm 2 weeks into this, 3 weeks into this, and nothing's going on. I'm like, you know what? Depending on your past and how much of a carbohydrate addict you were, depending on how much fat and carb you had in your diet, it may take every bit of that long for your body to adjust and get ready to this. One of the key features, again, I always say is keep up on your electrolytes to avoid that carb flu. You're going to want to keep some broth or some extra salt and then some magnesium. Some Slow Mag is my favorite. You can get that right at Walmart's. But be patient with yourself. This takes some time and it takes some dialing in. What works for someone else may not work for you, but you have to keep a record and a log to see what you're doing so someone can look at it or you can reevaluate what you're doing and say, hey, this didn't work. Next time I'm going to adjust my fat down so I have fewer calories from fat and a little more protein, and it may offset and help my training. These are all things that if you don't know what you've tried, you don't know what to change. So food logs like this, My Fitness Pal, and I know there's some other ones out there, Carb Manager, maybe I'll do another video on playing with that, are really useful tools, especially for you guys who are struggling, or maybe you're trying to lose that last 10. Maybe you've lost 50, 60, 80 pounds on a ketogenic diet. Now you really want to dial in that last 10 pounds. Sometimes this is where you're going to need to be. Much like I said in my book, it all depends on where you started. It all depends what your prior dietary menu was like. So hope this video helped. Hope it got you started. Brought another useful free tool to you. Shoot the questions my way. Let me know what you think, and we'll talk to you soon.